Stick with me here. He wakes up clueless, right as his classmate jabs his ribs. The teacher caught him napping. Instantly, the entire room just exploded into straight-up laughter. Typical, right? The class idiot caught sleeping again. The teacher furiously marched over. She demanded to know if her lesson was really that boring, but Blair, stunned. He couldn't believe his eyes. Who is she? Boring? Those curves are pure magic. Just look at that geometry. We are talking absolutely perfect spheres here. The teacher definitely noticed his staring. She yanked his ear, pointing at the blackboard. She ordered him to solve the problem. Honestly, his brain was totally foggy from, well, that perfect geometry. He had to force himself to calm down. Desperately trying to get the blood flowing back up to his brain, he finally focused on the problem. Sum all numbers from 1 to 100. Professor Britney screamed at him to hurry. Since he was napping, he must be a genius, right? Cue more mocking laughter. Everyone knew Blair was the absolute dimmest bulb around. But suddenly, watch this right here, his entire vibe flips. He gets so insanely confident, it literally stuns the teacher. He scribbles the answer on the board, and wow. She is completely floored. Blair doesn't even brag. He just casually says he needs to hit the bathroom to handle something. Dead silence. The whole class is speechless. Is that answer actually right? The curvy professor is frozen. How on earth did he calculate that in his head? Step outside the classroom, and bam, the real truth drops. Blair is totally lost, because this body, yeah, it is not his. He is actually Chenlu, a world-famous math professor and absolute genius who became the youngest master ever. No idea how he died, and definitely no clue how he woke up inside some bottom-tier student. Plus, looking at that blackboard, it seems they don't even know basic math formulas. Is he even on Earth? If not, he might literally be the smartest guy alive. Now, he's totally determined to see if I know what you're thinking. Total domination, right? Well, distracted, he doesn't see a girl walking down the hallway. Bam, they crash hard, like a bowling ball striking. Blair's head is spinning, but his hand lands on something incredibly soft. Honestly, almost makes the headache worth it. He panics and scrambles backward once he realizes what just happened, offering her a hand. She is absolutely fuming. Blair, you again. He is super confused. Do we know each other? The girl turns violently red, desperately trying to cover up her chest. She starts screaming that he did this exact thing on day one. Always groping her and trying to peek up her skirt. Just an arrogant creep. She unloads so many brutal insults about the old Blair that our main character literally freezes from the second-hand cringe. He tries to explain himself, but she is completely dead set on erasing him the painful way. She literally conjures fire magic. Blair panics and tries a new angle. Wait, if I'm really that weak and pathetic, beating me up is just bullying, right? But she is not listening. She is fully ready to barbecue him. Out of options, Blair drops the act. He sincerely apologizes to the beautiful girl with incredible geometry. And hey, I swear I definitely did not see any white panties. The girl is caught totally off guard. She actually calms down, but before she can even speak, our boy vanishes. He sprints away from the blonde as fast as humanly possible. Sprinting down the hall, he finally starts to process, and trust me, you and I are in for madness. Science and magic together. A brutal headache suddenly hits him, dropping him to his knees right on the grass. His vision totally blurs out. Going completely limp, he just blacks out on the ground. Stick with me here. His mind drifts back to some childhood memories where he is crying out for his dad. Then, we see a reflection in a puddle showing folks gathered outside a palace. A guy hands a gorgeous box to a lady, calling her his true love while trying to comfort her. Immediately, she grabs the kid by his arm and hurries into a huge 2-story mansion. Inside, while she is packing up her stuff, she catches 2 women quietly gossiping. They whisper about how the mother and child are nobles, but the man backing them passed away. The memory suddenly skips forward, showing the kid running in pure joy to tell his mom he got into Shandanasa Academy. Yep, that little kid was Blair. His mom looks worried though, warning him about the massive dangers waiting at the academy. Staring at her boy, she remembers her late husband and suddenly realizes they look exactly alike. From there, the flashback jumps straight ahead into his daily academy life, where the professors treated our guy with zero basic respect. His single goal is paying off his family debt. Because in the end, he comes from a totally bankrupt noble house, meaning he works twice as hard. But watch closely, the real issue. Our boy has exactly zero magic powers. He cannot even spark up a tiny fireball. Because of this, his academy life was absolute hell. Everyone relentlessly mocked his failures, dragging him into a deep depression. Then snap, he suddenly wakes up, staring right at a girl with bright blue hair. She is calling his name, looking totally worried and asking if he is okay. Blair is completely lost, wondering who this girl is and how she found him. Reaching her hand out to help, she reminds him he is late for magic theory class. He struggles up, leaning on her shoulder and awkwardly thanks her, pretty surprised. Literally nobody ever cares about him. Reaching the classroom, they see that the magic theory lesson is already started, with the professor lecturing everyone on the 4 basic elements. Listening to this explanation, our protagonist finally begins to understand this new world. I know what you're thinking, either a mage or just a normal commoner. Meanwhile, the graying old professor standing at the front just keeps on lecturing. He explains that mages use spells, hand signs, and raw spiritual power to control elements. But here is the catch: you must be born with that special gift. Time flies by, and the boring class finally wraps up. The students happily flood out of the room, celebrating being done. But after the lecture ends, the professor notices one student hanging back with a question. He glances over, spots Blair, and bluntly asks him what on earth he wants to know. Blair straight up asks if someone can learn magic without naturally being born with the talent. The old man instantly shuts him down, loudly declaring it is completely impossible to control elements without an innate gift. At that exact moment, the classmates hanging around burst into laughter. Because literally every single person knows our guy has zero power. Suddenly, a dude named Toby walks over and tries cheering him up. He promises that even if Blair completely fails out, there is always a spot for him on his dad's estate. Hearing that name, our protagonist suddenly remembers. This chubby kid was the only real friend of this body's previous owner. That's where we leave it, trust me, things get crazier soon. Stick with me, we are diving into a wild academy day. Blair suddenly notices the blue-haired girl staring right at him. He casually asks if she needs anything. She instantly panics. Blushing hard, she sprints out but totally blurts out a message first. Professor Britney wants to see him in her office after class. Blair stands there, just thinking about that girl. She was hovering around him literally all day long. Like she had some secret to share, then it hits him. Sure, he is a total math genius, but who cares in a magic world with zero actual magical talent? Absolutely none. Clinging to one tiny sliver of hope, he decides to force whatever little mana he has to summon fire. He stares at his palm, focusing hard, and tries casting a basic fireball, just praying for a spark, but his hope was fading fast. Despair creeping right in. It looked like another pathetic, total failure again. Now watch closely, this changes everything. Boom, a bright orange flame erupts. He is absolutely stunned, staring wide-eyed at the burning magic in his palm. How did this happen? He has zero clue, just watching that yellow light dancing right there. He can barely believe his eyes, because honestly, until now, this ice guy body had absolutely zero magical talent, but the proof is right there. He finally accepts reality, letting out a massive sigh of relief. Immediately, our guy starts happily messing around with his awesome new fire skills. But wait, how on earth did this crazy ability spawn? He guesses it is because his 2 worlds somehow merged together. Then, panic hits. He suddenly remembers that he needs to see Professor Britney. He rushes to her office, knocks gently, and hears a muffled voice telling him to enter, politely apologizing for the interruption. Our main guy steps into the math teacher's room, but looking inside, his eyes shoot wide open. He turns bright red. You and I never saw this coming. the hot teacher is in a super compromising pose. He just freezes there, staring hard. But she does not even notice his total panic, greeting him with a cheerful smile. Meanwhile, the poor guy is practically a statue, just gawking. The teacher, acting completely chill, tells him to ignore it. Apparently, she always does complex math in that exact yoga position. Blair, sweating bullets, awkwardly asks why she called him here. The blonde beauty gestures for him to take the seat right by her desk. She steps back for a quick second, returning to slap a pen and paper right in front of him. Blair glances down. It is a brand new, super complex math equation to solve. And just as he grabs the pen, the professor mentions she needs to step out of the room for a quick second. But without even blinking, he drops the final answer right then and there. The teacher freezes, eyes wide with pure shock, demanding he repeat that. He repeats the exact number, confirming it is absolutely right. Suddenly, the blonde dashes over, violently grabs his shoulders, and starts intensely demanding how he figured it out so fast. For her, that equation takes literal hours. Looking genuinely frustrated, she interrogates him. Had he seen this problem before? Even though she picked 79 completely at random, Blair calmly asks if she really wants to know his secret. Leaning in close, she jokingly demands he reveal exactly how he did it. His eyes accidentally drift down to her chest, classic anime logic, and he awkwardly agrees to explain the math. He is honestly surprised, realizing right then that his gorgeous teacher is actually incredibly naive. Wasting zero time, the genius dives straight into the explanation about adding the numbers. Trust me, you will love what comes next. Stick with me here, you and I are watching a total math flex. One slip up and you fail, but honestly, he praises her. Her calculations are actually spot on. She stares at her paper, totally lost. It's literally the only method she knows, but our main character, he just flashes a massive smirk. He flat out tells her she has it wrong. Then, he drops a new method. First step, find the hidden pattern. You pair the very first number right up with the last one, second with the second to last, you get the idea. Every single pair adds up to exactly 80. He casually asks his teacher how many pairs hit that 80 mark. The blonde literally jumps out of her seat and yells, 39. Our boy instantly praises her and tells her to take a seat. He quickly backpedals and apologizes, total teacher habit kicking in right there. He keeps explaining. This completely removes the giant headache of manual addition. Boom, it transforms right into a super simple and easy multiplication trick. With this method, she solves it insanely fast. The teacher is absolutely buzzing now. Learning something new, she happily declares this is a brilliant way to solve it. Even better, she points out you could probably improve this exact formula. Our boy praises her sharp insight, and yeah, he admits there is an upgrade. Now pay close attention. This is exactly where he breaks her whole reality. She completely freezes up, her brain struggling to process this crazy new logic. Seeing his teacher standing there like a statue, he calls out her name, worried. He figures basic Earth math might be way too overpowered for her. Finally, she snaps out of her trance. Looking away, totally dejected, she asks if he invented this method. The MC completely dodges, just says he made it to speed things up. Mentally, he knows she would never understand if he randomly dropped Gauss's name here. Out of nowhere, the teacher grabs his hand tight, calls him an absolute genius. To our main character, this moment is feeling like a straight-up romance anime. She promises a super bright future if they keep studying together. The poor guy turns violently red. He stammers her name, desperately trying to get a word out. The teacher suddenly reads the room. Embarrassed, she quickly backs away and scurries off. I know what you're thinking. Romance arc? Nope, watch her expression completely change here. Fully hyped up, she basically demands that Blair become a legendary math scholar. His answer, a hard, lightning-fast no, with his eyes full of pure ambition. He yells that he is going to be an overpowered mage. She looks completely confused and asks him exactly why. Bam, she slams him down on the table. She tells him to focus on math, screaming not to throw his talent away. As a master mathematician, he could easily secure a high-ranking spot in high society. She begs him to pick that path over magic. Ignoring her completely, he forcefully shoves her hand right off. Our hero makes it clear magic is his only real goal. He wants to be a mage, not a calculator, honestly, being a math legend. In this fantasy world is just way too easy. You literally just recite some already famous theories from Earth. Doing that just feels like super cheap plagiarism. Stealing ideas is boring, and magic, that is infinitely more exciting to him. Pausing to think for a second, the teacher suddenly proposes a high-stakes bet. She reminds Blair about the massive magic exam coming up at the academy. To decide his fate, what do you and I think this thoughtful boy notes next? Stick with me here. If he fails, he gets expelled. The teacher makes it clear. Want to become a real mage? Passing this specific exam is completely non-negotiable. Total silence. The boy just stares back. Deadpan, completely unreadable expression, clearly plotting his next move. Then, she snatches up a calendar from the desk and doubles down on it. Laying out the bet, if Blair somehow passes, she will completely back off. No more nagging him to become a mathematician, but if he totally bombs it. She forces him into a teaching assistant spot, so he stays locked at the academy. And studies pure math. Pitch delivered, she asks if he actually accepts. The deal is set. In her head, she knows he is guaranteed to fail this. Zero magic talent, literally none, but without flinching, his eyes flash with crazy confidence. Our guy accepts the bet on the spot. Cut to him walking down the hallway, grumbling about how insanely stubborn his teacher is, complaining she is always. Breathing down his neck, he starts replaying that whole conversation right in his head, but with a totally imaginary romantic filter added, realizing his thoughts are wandering into weirdly dirty territory. He shakes it off. Time to practice some actual magic. Now keep your eyes peeled here. A girl with ribbons comes sprinting out of nowhere. Full speed ahead. Bam, an absolute train wreck of a collision, and they crack heads hard. Both of them immediately tumble straight down to the floor in a tangled mess. Our boy thinks this setup feels like an anime cliché, then feels something soft. Right in his hand. The dizziness fades, he opens his eyes, and guess what? She's sitting right on top of him. The blonde realizes where his hand is and instantly attacks. She beats the absolute crap out of our guy. Furious, she starts channeling a spell. Getting a fire technique ready. An aggressive orange fireball bursts right into her palm. But wait a second, the target is completely gone. She is left swinging at air. Furious, screaming about how he vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, our protagonist lets out a massive sigh of relief. If he hadn't bolted away at the absolute speed of light, he would be human barbecue right now, sometime later. This same blonde ribbon girl storms into the office to talk to the math teacher. She is complaining nonstop about running into some academy pervert twice in one single day. Completely venting her frustrations, she gets even angrier, swearing up and down that next time she will blast him, and you and I know exactly who she means. No hesitation whatsoever. The teacher actually finds this whole drama hilarious and lets out a quiet little chuckle. The blonde, Isabella, quickly changes the topic of conversation. She claims she already crushed the brutal math assignment the teacher handed out earlier. Looking super proud, bragging about solving it overnight, she is fully convinced nobody else could have possibly beaten her speed. The teacher praises her hard work, but then completely bursts her bubble. She mentions some guy named Blair solved that exact problem in exactly 1 single minute. Isabella's jaw drops to the floor, totally bewildered, asking how anyone could be that insanely fast. The teacher explains there is a very specific math theory involved here and offers to demonstrate, so she grabs a pen and starts breaking down Blair's genius shortcut method. After the entire explanation, Isabella just has this stunned look on her face. Her brain is still buffering, trying to process. But piece by piece, it finally clicks. The sheer logic of the equation makes sense. Then a massive realization hits her like a truck. Pure shock, she literally cannot believe Blair actually invented it. Stick around, because you and I need to see what's next. Stick with me here. Isabella just has to meet the genius behind this epic theory. She begs the teacher for his name, eyes literally sparkling as she waits for an answer. The teacher thinks her hype is super weird, but finally agrees to introduce them. Next thing we know, Isabella kicks the classroom door wide open and storms right in, yelling in front of the whole class, demanding to know where this Blair guy is hiding, making it crystal clear she is desperate to meet him. One of Blair's friends, totally shocked, he opens his mouth to answer her. But out of nowhere, bam, a brutal pinch on his thigh shuts him right up. And the culprit, none other than Blair himself, who is literally hiding under the desk. His chubby friend gets the memo right away and makes up a wild lie, telling Isabella that Blair just left for his shift. She hits him with a confused, "Are you kidding me?" look, and asks a rhetorical question. Realizing it is pointless, she completely gives up and asks the guys to warn Blair when he returns. His friend gives her this little relieved wave, swearing he will pass the message along. As soon as Isabella leaves, the door slams. Watch closely, because only then does Blair crawl out from under the desk, double-checking the blonde menace is actually gone. After that whole disaster, dead silence hits the room. The entire class just stares at Blair with absolute shock, like what on earth just happened here? Clueless about why he is suddenly famous, our boy asks his friend why everyone is staring. His buddy, the guy with a bandage on his face, just grabs Blair's shoulder super tight, looking absolutely desperate. His buddy demands Blair to spill the beans on what exactly went down between him and this Isabella girl. But Blair is lost, completely baffled by his buddy's crazy reaction. Seeing this, his friend shoots him an "Are you insane?" look, asking if our main character has any clue who she even is. Blair gets a little nervous and carefully asks about the blonde who just crashed their room. His friend explains she has insane connections that could stir up some massive trouble. But Blair just shrugs it off. He arrogantly replies that inside the academy walls, nobody can touch him. Then his friend, looking like he is seeing a ghost, asks for the academy's name. Blair answers casually. The next question is the campus location, and our MC, completely chill, says Baker Avenue. You and I both know reality hits hard here. His buddy reveals that the campus sits in Yabo City, and the mayor ruling it is none other than Isabella's own father. That is when it finally clicks for Blair. He gets the massive danger he is in, pure panic sets in, what now? He realizes he is completely screwed, asking his friend if a simple apology to the girl would work. But suddenly, boom, a shout from the back calls out Isabella's name. The two of them whip around, totally startled. It is a blonde dude with his lackeys glaring daggers at our boy. He mocks that a total nobody like Blair will not even survive 2 days. This blonde is Bod, the absolute jerk who always bullied our MC in the past. Blair's friend steps up to defend him, but on the inside, he knows the bully is completely right. Because at this cutthroat academy, 0 skills means absolutely 0 respect. You are garbage. And to make it worse, second years face a brutal exam. Trust me, you'll want to see this. All right, you and I are entering a magic academy, where failing means instant expulsion. Normally, anyone could easily clear this basic test, but here is the big problem. Blair has absolutely 0 magic, so yeah, this exam is basically his doom. Bam, he snaps right back to reality when someone violently slams a desk. Enter B. He is absolutely furious, screaming at Blair, calling him totally deaf. The room goes dead silent, while this blonde bully starts throwing nasty insults. But Blair is not alone. His friend glares, refusing to just let this slide. He steps up right to B's face. The cocky blonde suddenly gets challenged to a full-on brawl right there in the classroom. B is just standing there, completely baffled. He asks what this chubby kid named Toby even has to do with this. The tension absolutely peaks. These two are literally 1 second away from throwing punches. B shoots him a deadly glare. He promises he is definitely not forgetting this. He turns his back, grabbing his crew, swearing that next time they cross paths, Blair is going to pay big time. Our main guy just stands there, looking super pale as the jerks walk out. Honestly, he is in total shock that Toby, actually stood up for him like an absolute boss. Now that is a true friend. For real, Blair quickly asks Toby to protect Isabella if things go completely sideways. Toby nods, but casually mentions he will probably beat Blair up himself before that. Classic bro banter. Blair just gives his buddy this blank, totally confused stare. Fast forward a few days. The infamous magic exam is finally kicking off. The professor steps up, laying down the rules. Fail this and you are gone. Watch closely because this gets intense. The task: stand behind a single line and hit a target with a pure fireball. B is up first, swaggering and completely full of himself, acting like he owns the whole place. He summons flames instantly and blasts the target dead center. The instructor praises him, confirming that he easily passed the test. The exam continues, with every student taking their shot. Then, from across the room, the blonde jerk locks eyes with our main guy. He lets out this insanely smug laugh. Walking straight up to Blair, he mocks him, saying he should enjoy his final pathetic minutes at school. Furious at the absolute disrespect, Toby steps up and tells the bully to shut his mouth. Perfect timing because the next name called, Toby himself. Without skipping a single beat, he starts charging up his magic. Slowly, a tiny little flicker of orange fire sparks in his palm. He screams out the attack name and throws the fireball forward. It flies across the room, barely grazing the target. The teacher sighs, clearly unimpressed, but announces Toby officially passed. Even though it was sloppy, you and I can agree a win is a win. Next up, the teacher checks the roster. He almost calls Blair's name out loud, but suddenly remembers this kid has zero magical power. The teacher, actually feeling pretty bad for him, decides to skip him to avoid totally humiliating our guy. So he starts ending the class early, pretending he just forgot Blair existed. But nope, B ruins it. The bully yells out, telling the teacher to wait a second. He points out that someone still has not taken their turn. B points a finger right at Blair, shouting at the top of his lungs that Blair already failed. Our boy just stands there in dead silence, frozen. So what do you and I think? Will the teacher actually save him? Someone awkwardly asks if he's testing. Stick with me, you'll love this underdog flex. The blonde bully crew hears this, completely losing their minds laughing at Blair. The crowd starts murmuring. Meanwhile, a math teacher just happens to stroll by. Blair's buddy steps in, clapping a supportive hand on his shoulder to cheer him. He tells him to ignore those jerks, but then, out of absolute nowhere, our boy's entire vibe shifts. Dead serious, confident, he announces he's taking the exam. The blonde punk and his snobby crew are absolutely stunned by this sudden boldness. They have zero clue what Blair is planning, but the shock wears off fast. Boom, back to howling laughter. They're already betting on our guy's epic failure. All this racket ends up catching the passing math teacher's attention right away. He gets super curious and walks over. Now the magic instructor is getting annoyed. He yells at everyone to quiet down, asking Blair one last time to confirm. Is he sure he wants to do this? Our boy gives a rock-solid look. He tells Professor Antonio he's ready, the other instructors. They try being nice, telling him not to cry when he totally fails this test. The main character steps up, getting in position right in front of the target. He takes a breath. Watch closely, you and I are about to see a show. He's crazy confident. He knows he doesn't need fancy hand gestures or chants. He can cast silently, but to make it look good, he acts out the motions. He shouts the name of a fire spell. Instantly, every single eye in the room locks onto the target. Everyone holds their breath. Meanwhile, our boy is totally faking like he's struggling super hard to summon mana. The crowd actually covers their faces, bracing against the smoke pouring off him so they don't get burned alive. But when they peek through the smoke, they check his hands. Zero magic happening. Nothing at all. The blonde bully and his lackeys absolutely lose their minds laughing. I know what you're thinking, he failed, right? But then, out of nowhere, a spark ignites. Massive glowing magic circles instantly expand all around his body. An absolutely colossal fireball forms, blasting straight toward the test dummy. Direct hit, A gigantic, roaring explosion of pure flames shakes the room. Literally everyone, students and teachers, just freezes in absolute shock. Jaws hit the floor. When the smoke clears, that heavy-duty target is literally just a pile of ashes. Smoldering rubble everywhere. The magic professor stammers out that Blair officially passed the exam. The blonde bully's smug face shatters. He screams that it is totally impossible, whining that not even he could pull off that much damage. Meanwhile, only Tob is hyped for his buddy, asking why he kept that crazy power a secret. Suddenly, the professor calls our boy over for a private chat, the math teacher. Still off to the side, brain completely short-circuiting over what he just witnessed. Blair steps into the magic professor's office and immediately starts spinning a massive lie. About grinding away with books every single day to master that epic fireball spell. Professor Antonio buys it, explaining that true magic is a divine gift. He says people born with zero magic are basically labeled the outcasts of society, the godforsaken. Honestly, they all assumed Blair was a total dud, but seeing this, he claims the gods finally blessed Blair with this insanely rare, explosive magic gift. He praises our guy, hyping his massive potential and telling him to study. So what do we take from this? Our guy's overpowered, but already exhausted. Stick with me here. Every single teacher at this academy is basically begging him to learn their stuff. Then out of nowhere, he thanks them but drops a massive bomb. He just wants to go back to his own world. The professor stares at him, totally confused, asking what other worlds mean. Blair instantly realizes his massive mistake. He scrambles to play it off, laughs and swears it was just a stupid joke, completely harmless. A total accident, but Professor Anthony, he's not buying it, just figuring our guy has been studying way too hard. He assumes Blair meant the legendary world of the Sacred Master. The second he hears that title, our boy is all ears. He is super invested in every word the professor says. Because apparently, legend says this Sacred Master controlled space and could jump between different worlds. But everyone thinks it's just a crazy myth. Blair stares at the professor, practically begging for more details on these insane legends. He suddenly grabs the old man's shoulders, yelling out that he absolutely has to become a Sacred Master. Cut to later, and Blair is seriously hitting the books, studying this world's entire history. Up late in the library, burning his magic energy away, plowing through a massive mountain of books. From all this newly gathered info, he discovers mages here actually have strict power levels. A classic magic hierarchy. 7 different tiers in total to climb. The legendary Sacred Masters were now pay attention. These masters only ever exist in old myths. Their abilities, only found in ancient, dusty texts. These books claim the holy masters had space magic, literally ripping reality open to jump between worlds. But normal people today, they think it's fake. To them, other worlds simply do not exist. But Blair still holds out hope. This power is his one-way ticket home. The issue? Professor Antonio doesn't believe a word of it, so he won't be coughing up any extra info. Suddenly, the library administrator walks right up to Blair, asking how his research is going. Our boy gets super nervous when the boss tells him to stop reading and start helping out a bit with the daily library chores. Left with 0 options, he agrees to take a forced break. Post-shift, he is absolutely destroyed. Who knew library work could be this brutal? It's exhausting. Shift over, he heads straight to his magic class, the very second he walks in. Dead silence. You and I both know that's never good. Everyone is whispering about his test results. He actually scored insanely well. The chatter will not stop. This sudden intense popularity is really weighing him down. Out of nowhere, he catches Isabella in the corner of his eye. He freezes completely. Why is she here? He just stares at her, completely stunned. Barely breathing, the blonde is sitting in this super awkward pose, making our guy incredibly flustered. He desperately tries to turn away so he doesn't have to stare. Suddenly, Isabella shoots straight up from her desk, shouting for the whole class to hear. She had no idea this guy was the same Blair. Seeing this go south fast, Blair tries to calm her down and quickly kill the whole conversation. But she cuts him off instantly, screaming that he's a total pervert. Right in front of everyone, Blair scrambles to defuse the blonde's massive anger. But then, literal fire starts forming around her. She concentrates her raw magical power, prepping a deadly fire spell. Clueless on what to do, the kid just cowers and covers up. But he feels nothing. Trust me, you'll want what's next. Stick with me here. He opens his eyes, completely shocked that the attack missed him. Standing right there, the math teacher, she completely blocked the clueless student's wild move. Looking totally disappointed, she demands to know why Isabella is throwing magic around indoors. The mayor's daughter stammers, desperately trying to explain her crazy actions, but the teacher instantly shuts her down. Zero excuses allowed. Right after that, the teacher orders Blair to follow her to the office. But wait, it gets worse. Isabella is dragged along too. Not wanting any more drama, our boy just sighs and quietly follows her out. The two nervous students and their strict teacher quickly leave the classroom, slamming the heavy door shut behind them. Following that absolute chaos, the rest of the class sits in pure silence, trying to process what just went down. One blonde guy looks completely stunned, failing to understand why Blair is getting all this special attention. Meanwhile, safe in the teacher's office, our guy explains the whole awkward mess that happened with Isabella earlier. The teacher actually tries to play peacemaker, claiming the whole fight was just one massive misunderstanding. Under all that pressure from the teacher, the blonde girl reluctantly gives in. Watch closely now. The teacher suddenly flips the script, changing the subject completely. She brings up the magic exam, praising our main character for his insane effort. The bet between them, officially canceled. She admits she was completely fascinated by his wild performance. Now she wants to see exactly how he evolved out of thin air to unlock those magic skills. But our boy rejects her. He claims it was pure luck, saying he actually has a few burning questions for her about magic instead. The blonde doesn't push it. She just waits, super curious about what he'll ask next. Then he drops the ultimate question. To control an element, do you seriously need to use hand gestures and chant spells? Isabella, who never misses a chance to hate, butts right in, mocking our protagonist and calling his question completely stupid. Realizing how dumb that probably sounded, Blair gets awkward but pushes forward, asking if any magical exceptions actually exist. The teacher calmly explains that yes, even the strongest mages alive rely on spells and gestures. The only real difference is, at their max level, they cast way faster. She goes on to reveal that magic is a literal gift from the gods. The gods taught humans to use specific gestures and chants to summon elements. Doing it without casting, that requires something insane. They call it divine enlightenment. Isabella finds this whole conversation so ridiculous. You and I are probably wondering the exact same thing. Why answer so seriously? Meanwhile, our boy starts wondering. Since he is from another world, did the gods here completely ignore him? This was all basic magic theory. And if he really wanted to become a mage, he had to hit the books first. But wait, she called him here for a totally different reason. Just like mentioned earlier, she hands him a folded paper. She explains it's a famous scientific journal where all the important works get published. Isabella, standing nearby, sneaks a quick peek at the journal and is completely shocked. She notices the math teacher's name next to his and totally loses her mind. The teacher proudly explains that she actually figured out the crazy math method our boy used and wrote a whole research paper on it. But our guy, he is only thinking about one thing right now. Will he make any money off this? Because honestly, his library paycheck is an absolute joke. As if reading his mind, she calls his name. Trust me, watch what happens next. She hands him a little coin pouch, his hard-earned reward for all that grinding. Trust me, you and I are about to see this guy make a hilariously expensive mistake. Thrilled beyond belief. He acts super humble and pretends he's too shy to accept all of it, politely offering half the cash right back to his teacher. And naively, she literally just says yes and pockets the cash. Blair's face drops. Instant regret. He never actually thought she would take his hard-earned money. The inner pain is real. He was literally just being polite. One single sentence and boom, half his total net worth is completely gone. Because of this absolute blunder, he starts having some seriously dark thoughts about escaping this brutal world as fast as humanly possible. But suddenly, something totally catches his eye. And he stares intensely at the teacher, a spark of pure greed. He asks if every single article published in that scientific journal pays out equally. She confirms it. Yes, they drop a fat payout for every single published piece. Now watch closely. We are about to see a truly brilliant idea pop into his head. He instantly starts explaining this wild new theory he brought over from his old world. The teacher gasps. She totally recognizes the concept and calls it Hughes's enigma. Our MC, who knows literally nothing about this world's science, just gives her a blank stare. She explains that Ralph's riddle is this famous math problem left by ancient sages. The classic story setup: Ralph has 7 sons. Each son carries 7 bags. Each bag holds 7 cats, and each cat has 7 tiny kittens. The problem itself isn't massive math. If you just manually add it all up, you easily get the answer. But here is the real catch. If the numbers were huge, you would desperately need a formula. So the blonde teacher leans in, genuinely hyped, asking if he can actually solve it differently. Flashing a super confident smirk, he says he might have a few solid ideas. She gets absolutely hyped by this answer and begs to work with him on this crazy new method. Hours fly by as they grind away, while the other student, who is hanging in the office, totally passes out fast asleep in her chair. Suddenly, a massive scream right next to her ear jolts her fully awake. It is the professor, jumping for absolute joy, shouting that he actually solved the impossible problem. Isabella is completely stunned and asks our boy if he created the idea. I know what you're thinking. Is he actually a genius? He just smirks, asking if she really wants the truth. The blonde is incredibly curious and practically insists on knowing. He casually shrugs, saying he has absolutely zero special skills. He honestly just studies like an absolute madman. Jaw on the floor, she asks if he is serious. Way later, her mind is still totally blown. Then, out of nowhere, she spots something that leaves her completely and utterly shocked. Our MC is sneaking around the third-year building. She is incredibly confused, wondering what a second-year student is doing way out there. She swears to herself she will definitely catch him red-handed this time. But in a blink, she completely loses sight of him. Classic ninja move. By now, our boy is already standing near a massive stone wall behind the building. This is exactly the spot Toby had warned him about, praying he wouldn't do anything incredibly reckless. With one easy light jump, he clears the wall, suddenly remembering exactly what his old magic teacher said. So where do you and I go next? Straight toward the secret magic training ground. Let's dive in. Behind this huge wall lies something totally unexpected for us. The main character freezes for a second, totally taking in the stunning, wide-open city. The architecture is next level. It looks peaceful, but down on the main street, it is completely bustling. Merchants are literally everywhere, shouting out to the potential customers, desperately pushing their goods. Our black-haired hero casually strolls through, soaking up the epic scenery. But then, his eyes lock onto this massive, imposing castle, with glowing white walls right in the dead center. He spots it instantly. Yep, that is the famous magic association he was hunting down. But before walking in, he quickly pulls out a plain mask from his pocket. He has to play it safe. Better not to leak his real identity yet. Since the front entrance area is pretty empty, he walks right up to the reception desk. There, a blue-haired girl immediately offers to help him out. Our guy instantly recognizes her. It is Molly, his classmate. What is she doing working here? She offers to set him up with a top-tier mentor. But the price tag is absolutely insane. When our guy hears the fee, he's completely shocked. He definitely doesn't have that kind of crazy money to blow. He turns to leave, but stick with me, this is where his luck changes completely. Molly calls out. If money is tight, she says he can easily just sign up for the association library instead. He spins around, totally surprised, and even asks her to repeat that. Did she just say library? Yep. Turns out, this massive magic library holds thousands of legendary books on the subject. And the absolute best part, totally free. Realizing he won't have to drop a single penny to level up, our guy gets hyped and demands to register immediately. But there is a catch: he needs a mage certificate first, which sadly he totally lacks. Molly assumed he was already certified, explaining that this strict rule exists to prove someone actually knows real magic before they can enter. She suggests he can simply prove his abilities right here and now, just by showing off his power. He hesitates for a second, asking if he can really just take the exam right now. He can, but Molly drops a heavy warning. I know what you're thinking. Yes, today's examiner is brutal, 10% pass rate. Still, he doesn't back down. He confidently agrees to take the exam, because sneaking back over that wall would be super annoying. A short time later, they step into the examiner's room. Meet Andrew. Instantly, our boy spots the red robe with 2 bright silver stripes on this strict guy. That marks him as a mid-tier fire mage. The grumpy guy wastes zero time. He gets straight to business, demanding to know who this kid is and why he wears a mask. Our hero introduces himself as Chenlu, claiming he is just hiding a nasty burn scar he got from a training accident. Suddenly, the old man beside the examiner makes a super snarky comment. He mocks that his fireballs must be pretty pathetic to burn his own face like that. Andrew, showing mild interest, thinks Chenlu is a weird name. Judging by his young age, he figures this kid is just a low-tier rookie. Molly politely suggests they head to the proper exam room. But Andrew shuts her down with a hard no, which completely stuns her. So what do we make of this? The crazy exam begins right here. Stick with me here. The examiner literally just invited our boy to flex his skills. Bailey just stares at the guy, completely stunned, like, is he actually being serious? Cast a spell right here? The room is way too cramped for this. Meanwhile, the old guy just smirks. He claims Andrew totally won't get scratched by whatever pathetic tiny spark our hero might manage to summon. But honestly, our boy doesn't even waste breath arguing. He just accepts the crazy terms. Standing right there in front of his judge, he starts channeling massive magical energy straight into his palm. The mage clearly hates his casting stance, but then, to absolute shock of everyone watching, an insane level of raw energy starts gathering directly in the hero's hand. Suddenly, it hits them. This fireball is actually going to be gigantic. Andrew screams at him to cancel it, but it is way too late to stop. Here is where you and I witness his raw power unleashed. The whole cramped room lights up from a blinding, supercharged fireball. An intense, bright glare blinds everyone, and the flaming sphere shoots straight at the cocky examiner. He totally never expected this god-tier power and scrambles to hide right behind the heavy door. Boom! An absolutely devastating explosion detonates right inside that tiny space. Afterward, dead silence, just thick dust and choking black smoke everywhere. The spectating girl breathes in a lungful of ash and just starts hacking uncontrollably. Squinting hard, she tries pulling herself together to see who survived this absolute madness. Through the thick haze, she spots the old man coughing, having clearly just cast a defensive spell. Right where the examiner was standing, there is now a massive blue energy shield guarding him. Meanwhile, Andrew is totally grounded, coated in debris, completely baffled by what just went down. Turns out, the white-haired veteran barely popped that barrier in time to save the now terrified bald mage. He maintains the defense, looking absolutely grim while trying to peer through the fading smoke. The examiner is literally so shell-shocked by the impact that he freezes up entirely. The older mage, literally, has to violently shake his shoulders to snap him awake. The girl just stares. I know you and I would be speechless too. Our boy spots the panic and casually drops an apology to the rattled mages. He basically explains he figured they were ready for it, which is why he unleashed his full strength. Despite nearly leveling the room, our hero passed the exam. Fast forward a bit, he is elsewhere collecting his official mage badge and a library pass. He grabs the paperwork, quickly checking it over. The stunned girl from earlier walks right up. admitting she was completely floored by his insane display against the judges. Our overpowered lead, Chenlu, smoothly thanks her for the nice words, waves goodbye, and just walks away. But here is the wild part. He actually dropped her real name. She just stands there frozen, racking her brain, wondering how on earth they met and how he knew it. Meanwhile, hitting the library, Chenlu is blown away by the massive, endless stacks. He wastes zero time, snatching up a heavy tome and grabbing a quiet table to study. He is actually stunned because these pages are loaded with some incredibly valuable, top-tier secrets. He dives straight into the heavy texts, breaking down raw magical and spiritual energy. Simply put, a caster's true limit is capped by their base spiritual force. Huge spiritual pool equals absolutely devastating magical output. And trust me, we will soon see top mages literally hijack weaker elements. Mages? But honestly, the book's explanation of the 4 magical elements is let's dive in, guys. The magical knowledge in this world, honestly, it's basically zero. These mages actually believe those 4 elements make up the foundation of literally everything. Not just their spells, but the whole world. All other elements are just a mix of those 4 primary ones. From the perspective of modern science, this logic is ridiculously outdated. Any middle schooler knows that matter comes from the entire periodic table, not just 4 basic elements. But since real magic actually exists in this crazy world, our MC struggles to find a pure scientific answer. But then, boom, an epic idea hits him hard. What if he can manipulate these magical elements in a totally different way? Caught up in the hype, he literally jumps up, totally startling everyone inside the library. If his crazy theory actually works, he might just invent a brand new tier of magic. Quickly, he scoops up all the papers scattered across the table. Without even hesitating, our boy grabs his gear and bolts out. Stick with me here, because his next move is pure insanity. He runs straight to the Magic Association, finally arriving there, completely out of breath. He sprints down a hallway, and his previous test examiners immediately spot him. The examiner and some older dude are sitting around, still totally paralyzed in shock from what he did earlier. Right nearby, a blue-haired girl pours them some tea. That Andrew guy points out how Chenlu barely has any spiritual power. But somehow, he still managed to cast a massive and incredibly destructive fireball. But the absolute craziest part is that the old master couldn't even control the kid's summoned element. The gray-robed mage suspects this kid is hiding a terrifying secret. By now, it was already getting completely dark. So our MC dips out of the city to head back to the academy. Along the way, he effortlessly leaps over a massive stone wall like it's nothing, landing perfectly on his feet on the other side. He doesn't even kick up a single speck of dirt. Our guy hates wasting time and decides to start crafting his brand new magic system right there. Endless equations start flashing into his head. You guys feel that tension, right? He's about to break the system. Our MC takes a deep breath, and suddenly, a completely bizarre energy, a pure white aura he's never felt before, starts violently swirling around him. He instantly realizes this raw power is coming right from his own core. He can totally control it. He channels this insane flow of Kai to manifest a second element. A glowing magic orb forms in his palm, literally transforming into pure oxygen. But wait, is it actually pure oxygen? There was zero way to confirm it just by looking at it. So Blair compresses that oxygen in his hand, making it super dense and heavily concentrated. He figures if it's really pure oxygen. All he's gotta do is ignite it to be absolutely sure, but his first try completely fails. He adds a spark, and just a tiny puff of smoke fizzles out. Refusing to give up, he tries his wild experiment one more time. He generates the oxygen sphere in his palm, compresses it down hard, and sets the whole thing ablaze. Suddenly, a massive explosion completely detonates around him. The shockwave is so insanely powerful, it immediately shatters the nearby building windows. Trust me, you and I are not ready for this power scale. Even a thick glass sitting on the math teacher's desk instantly shatters everywhere. The teacher lets jump right into the chaos, Hearing that massive street blast, she drops everything. Peering through her window, now completely shattered to pieces by the massive shockwave, she spots the epic aftermath of the blast right next to the main building. Right on the grass, massive sparks fly as dark smoke billows into the sky. Our boy is standing dead center, struggling to catch his breath in the smog. The thick air chokes him. Wild winds start whipping everything around in crazy patterns. Blair quickly realizes something. He actually got insanely lucky by reacting so damn fast. Suddenly, his face is just dripping with cold sweat. He is genuinely terrified now. He nervously glances sideways, trying to calculate the absolute destruction this single blast caused. Turns out, that oxygen mixture was way more explosive than he ever could imagine. Then, out of nowhere, a distant voice starts screaming, demanding some quick answers. Blair spins around fast, only to see a random guy sprinting straight toward him. He honestly had zero clue his spell would be that insanely loud. Time to run. Realizing he is about to face massive trouble, our protagonist immediately bolts away. But stick with me here. Despite the crazy chaos, Blair created something truly worthwhile. Fast forward a bit, he is sitting in class, stressing over his wild morning. The guy is completely exhausted after staying up all night long to study. So he drops his head to grab a quick nap at his desk, but peace. Yeah, peace is never an option. Suddenly, someone starts smacking him on the shoulder. It is Toby, frantically rambling about the absolute madness that went down last night. Playing it cool, our black-haired MC lies and says he slept like a rock. Rumor has it, a huge blast near the third-year building blew out every window. The whole school thinks an ultra-powerful mage pulled it off. Nobody knows why. Blair casually comments that he has never even seen a mage on that level. Toby gives him a completely dumbfounded look. What do you mean you have never seen one? Their very own math teacher is actually a top-tier, super high-level mage. You and I both know that feeling. Blair is totally stunned, jumping out of his chair. Shortly after that huge revelation, our boy decides he needs to confront his teacher. We cut to him nervously knocking on her office door. She opens it almost instantly. She warmly greets her student. Seriously, Blair showed up at the absolute perfect time. Because she really needed to speak with him, she drops some huge news about the Mathematics Association. They just published an official article regarding Ralph's enigma. And since Blair was the genius who solved it, his name is proudly listed first. The teacher warmly congratulates him for cracking the hardest math problem ever. Brushing that massive achievement aside, he admits he came here for a totally different reason. To her absolute surprise, Blair casually drops that he wants to study math with her. He practically begs for her help. Hearing this sudden request, she just stares at him. Completely bewildered. This kid only cared about magic, but now he is begging for math. He claims he suddenly developed a passion for numbers and refuses to regret missing out. He even jokes that he must have been a legendary mathematician in his past life. Overwhelmed with pure emotion, the teacher grabs his hand tight, gently calling out his name. Losing all self-control, she presses his hand right up against her own chest, deeply moved. She hugs him tight, declaring that from now on, they will study together every day. Dying of pure embarrassment, our boy desperately tries to pull away from her. So what do you and I make of this? He gently pushes back, completely flustered. Let's dive right in. He uses this awkward pause to beg for magic help. Totally flustered, he hears the teacher agree to everything. His reaction, time to get the heck out. He bolts. Our boy is literally sprinting for the exit, absolutely desperate to escape. He yanks the door open, but wait. The blonde teacher calls his name, stopping him. She reminds him about their math lessons tomorrow. He just nods along, ready to run for his life. But out of nowhere, she tells him to wait. Just one more minute. She sits on her desk, clasps her hands, and struggles to find the right words. Blair is completely lost, just staring at her in nervous silence. Then it hits her. The black-haired kid in front of her only agreed to study math so she'd teach him magic. This really bothers her, realizing his promise was basically a fake-out. Seeing he's totally busted, the protagonist panics hard. He scrambles for a quick excuse and then a genius idea hits him. Watch closely, this is how he wiggles out of it. He blurts out that since they'll be spending tons of time together, it's way easier to ask her magic questions. But before he can even finish that thought, the teacher slaps a heavy hand right on his shoulder. She grips him tight, and the boy freezes. He's terrified of what she's about to drop on him. But instead, she praises his raw talent for math, calling it a powerful tool. Turns out our guy's quick excuse actually worked. She tells him to go rest up, but don't forget their after-school lesson. Blair walks away thinking this teacher is definitely brilliant, but completely clueless at the same time. Fast forward to the very next evening. Blair arrives for his private tutoring. He pushes the classroom door wide open without bothering to knock and struts right in. But wait, two girls are sitting at the front desk, just chatting away. The second girl, Isabella. She is seriously not thrilled to see his face. She totally wanted the teacher all to herself. I know what you're thinking, drama time. She straight up demands why he's there. The teacher nervously apologizes. She completely forgot to mention it, but starting right now, Blair is joining their study sessions. The blonde instructor sweetly asks Isabella to take care of the new kid. But judging by that sour glare, she hates the idea completely. The teacher waves our main character over, pointing to the empty seat beside the glaring student. She announces she's got a special math problem ready for him. The question. Here it is, one stone is dropped down a well. A second later, another rock, twice as heavy, gets tossed in. So, at what exact moment does the second stone overtake the first? Isabella jumps in immediately, claiming they need the time gap between drops. But before she even finishes her sentence, Blair shuts her down. Zero hesitation. He flat out declares that the heavy second stone will literally never catch the first one. Ignore air resistance, he says. And a massive rock falls at the exact same speed as a light one. His crazy answer leaves the snooty girl beside him absolutely furious. She snaps at him, accusing him of lacking basic common sense. According to her, literally everyone knows a falling object's speed is tied to its weight. Heavier means faster, period. She smugly adds that ancient sages proved this ages ago, and even a toddler should know better. But Blair, he's not buying that garbage. His expression darkens, he is getting seriously annoyed now. He fires back that just because some dead ancient sages said it, doesn't make it true. Trust me, you'll love his next question. All right, stick with me here. The blonde is absolutely furious that our guy dared to question the ancient sages. The vibe instantly gets crazy tense between them because nobody wants to back down. So, our main character tells them straight up that science must be precise. If a so-called truth cannot be proven, then it is not real. Another student suggests placing a bet, but our boy refuses. Then, the teacher steps in to stop a total brawl from breaking out. But then, out of nowhere, the mayor's daughter drops 10 gold coins. He instantly agrees. The teacher just facepalms, super frustrated that she cannot stop this black-haired kid. Soon enough, they find the perfect spot for the experiment. She tries warning him one last time, pointing out that one stone is way bigger. And they should just drop this nonsense, but he stands his ground. I mean, after all, he is not passing up on 10 easy gold coins. Nobody thinks he is actually going to win. Everyone blindly trusts the ancient sages. The blonde even scoffs, saying that being confident is fine, but being this cocky is ridiculous. Right after that, glowing white wind platforms materialize in the air. The teacher steps onto them and literally starts floating. A blue wind shoots her up, higher and faster into the sky. Our boy, who has never seen flight magic, is completely mind-blown. He and Isabella stay down below on the grass, just watching their teacher ascend all the way to the very top of the clock tower. Up there, she raises both hands, gripping a big stone in one and a smaller stone in the other. The mayor's daughter is already celebrating, claiming he is absolutely going to lose. Watch closely, the teacher lines up both stones perfectly. Here is the big moment. At the exact same height, she simply lets go. Both stones instantly plummet into freefall, and for a split second, it seems they are at different heights. Dropping closer and closer to the grass, picking up insane speed, But suddenly, boom. Both stones hit the ground at the exact same time. The blonde's jaw literally drops, entirely unable to believe her own eyes. The guy, meanwhile, he just flashes a cocky smirk because he fully expected this outcome. From way up high, the teacher also has a stunned look on her face, completely baffled by what just happened. She casts her wind spell again, floating slowly back down to the grass for a closer look. Those two stones are sitting right there. The trio just stands around, minds absolutely racing, trying to process this impossible result. Isabella finally connects the dots, and her expression is pure shock. I know what you're thinking. How is this even possible, right? To them, the ancients never lie. The teacher is left wondering how in the world her student knew this famous law of falling bodies was entirely bogus. He casually explains that he read it in a book. But testing it himself with two stones proved that reality was completely different from the ancient texts. Turns out, a fundamental rule taught for over 1,000 years just got completely debunked simply by dropping two rocks from a clock tower. It is honestly insane that so many brilliant scholars never bothered to actually test if their so-called facts were real. The blonde grabs his shoulders, panicked, yelling that this law is deeply important to their society. And pretty soon, a brand new law will pop up in history books with Blair's name attached. But our guy is not thrilled about this instant fame, especially since he was not the only one involved in this crazy experiment. The professor tries smoothing things over. And trust me, you and I haven't seen anything yet. Here's where it gets good. She played a small part, but he can refine this law alongside Isabella. And wow, she gets absolutely thrilled by the idea. Our guy casually tells her he'll definitely need her help finishing it up, formally inviting her to join the project. Instantly, all that shy energy totally vanishes from her face. She stares at him, completely shocked. Her mind goes into overdrive, overthinking his simple proposal. She's already picturing massive newspaper headlines, announcing to the world that two absolute geniuses have hit the academy, teaming up to create a brand new magic law. Cue the massive blush. Her face turns bright tomato red, just imagining working closely with our MC. But she decides to hide her total freakout. Trying desperately to play it cool, she shyly nods yes. The blonde just stands there, totally lost in thought, realizing they'll be working completely alone. She starts daydreaming up all these possible names for their new law, picturing their names sitting side by side right in the title. Boom, another intense blush. Then, totally out of nowhere, she literally offers to protect our guy if anyone dares to mess with him here, secretly thinking about how incredibly smart and handsome he is. Suddenly, he holds his hand right out to you're probably thinking the same thing she is, a handshake. This unexpected gesture makes Isabella completely flustered and honestly, a little bothered without even knowing exactly why. She nervously asks what he wants, and his response, straight up, he asks her for 10 gold coins. Yeah, our guy definitely meant something completely different with that hand gesture. His eyes practically sparkle with stars, just thinking about the cold hard cash he's about to pocket. Isabella, super disappointed her romantic fantasy crashed. She backs away, pouting just a bit. In the end, our guy bags the promised bet payment and starts happily counting up his coins. He is absolutely thrilled winning 10 gold pieces from a single challenge, getting rich overnight. Isabella starts to figure out that he cares way more about money than actual fame. But she senses that's definitely not the whole truth here. Her words hit him hard, making our guy go totally silent for a second. With genuine, burning curiosity, she finally decides to ask him what he truly wants out of life. This direct question catches him completely off guard. I know what you're thinking. Has he actually planned this out? He considers everything he's achieved in this new world, and boom, it clicks. Flashes of his past life flood his mind. How he used to grind endlessly as an everyday teacher. He remembers his old students, the daily job, and the friends he left behind in a world that is completely gone now. Emerging from those heavy memories, he finally finds an answer for her. But his real goal, it's definitely not something he can just casually announce to people here. So he deflects, claiming he just wants enough cash to live a comfortable life. Slapping on a fake smile, he bids farewell to Isabella and the professor. Left without the deep answer she was hoping for, the blonde thoughtfully watches his back as he walks away. She realizes he is carrying heavy burdens he can't share with anyone. Fast forward a day, and Blair is chilling in the classroom, deciding that napping right at his desk is honestly way more comfortable than his tiny dorm room. Evaluating his situation, he realizes that, hey, at least he has cash now. But he knows he can't just sit around doing nothing. He's got to keep grinding. Just then, some blonde dude named B slams his hand on the desk, shouting Blair's name. Looking super annoyed, B tells him a guy named Phage wants him. Blair's totally confused. Stick around for what's next. Stick with me, Blair has zero clue who he is. The bully hates that. He gets furious, grabbing our boy right by the hoodie. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a voice barks an order to let Blair go immediately. And standing nearby, another blonde student appears, looking super sharp and adjusting his tie. Turns out, this is the famous Phage, the absolute big shot looking for our main character. And hey, he didn't show up solo. He brought two massive, deadly-looking guards with him, glaring at Blair like they wanted to burn a hole right through his skull. Phage glares at him with absolute disgust. Our boy, on the other hand, is just super curious, since he has literally never seen this guy before. The blonde in the blue shirt turns to our hero, demanding to know if he is Blair. He slowly sizes him up from head to toe, letting out a super sarcastic laugh while standing right in front of his face. That is when it finally clicks for our hero. Looking serious, he tells the guy to back off, introduces himself, and asks what is actually going on. Now watch closely. Guys, the smug blonde warns Blair to stay away from Isabella. To him, trash like Blair shouldn't even breathe near a top-tier girl. After delivering that harsh message, Phage orders his lackeys to scram, and they instantly bounce. On the way out, the blonde violently bumps into Toby, who is just walking by. The poor guy cannot handle the hard impact and awkwardly crashes to his knees. He is so terrified he does not even dare to speak, just silently praying for these nasty bullies to finally leave. Still pretty awkward, Toby shuffles up to our hero and nervously asks if he is okay. Blair claims he is fine, saying they just wanted to chat. But Toby is absolutely shocked that Phage targeted Blair out of nowhere and cannot figure out the reason. Then, Toby nervously explains the harsh reality. That blonde is Phage, the class president, and literally everyone at the academy is terrified of him. He is from the famous Howard family, the spoiled son of a viscount. And making things way worse, his dad is a massive shot in a secret society, and tons of academy teachers are actually members too. Toby quickly tries to smooth things over, admitting he totally understands being charmed by Isabella's insane beauty. But he begs his friend not to ignore Phage's dangerous warning. Hearing this, our boy suddenly gets super flustered and embarrassed, because romance was not on his mind at all. Time flies by, and soon it is noon as morning classes finally end. Blair is sitting with Isabella. We both know that feeling, completely zoned out, thinking about how to properly master his new oxygen technique. The huge advantage here is that he will not need magic circles or hand signs. But the catch, he still cannot figure out how to combine two elements at once. Isabella suddenly snaps him out of his deep thoughts, bossily telling him to stop slacking off. She firmly tells him to solve the crazy problem the math teacher assigned today. Our hero, yawning with pure boredom, just hands her a piece of paper. When Isabella glances at the sheet, she spots a complex mess of formulas and realizes he literally solved the entire thing ages ago. She is completely left speechless, especially since she only managed to finish half the problem in that exact same amount of time. Our hero smirks and says you cannot just solve absolutely everything the exact same way. According to him, the real secret is finding totally different ways of thinking. Totally ignoring his smug attitude, she looks down at the paper, feeling a bit embarrassed. Taking full advantage of the silence, our boy suddenly remembers he wanted to ask her something. He is super curious how she summons two fireballs at once. And she casually replies she can summon a bunch. Trust me, we need to remember this. Leaves our main character totally shocked. He just stares at her, completely confused. Let's jump right in. The blonde realizes he can only cast one fireball and immediately starts teasing him. He explains he has read tons of books on magic, but found absolutely nothing about casting multiple spells at once. The girl just shrugs. Books only teach the basic stuff, not these much more advanced techniques. To learn that, you would need to hire a super expensive magic tutor. But she adds, if someone called her big sister, she might just teach them herself. Without missing a single beat. And with a totally straight face, our boy calls her sister right then and there. The girl did not expect that fast of an answer. She is completely caught off guard. The absolute deadpan look on his face when he said that magic word left her flustered. But hey, a promise is a promise. She agrees to train the guy. After that, they ditch the academy and find a quiet spot to practice. The girl focuses hard and casts. Suddenly, a whole cluster of yellow fireballs now watch closely. Our boy is absolutely amazed by this epic sight, since he can barely summon two. What really catches his eye, though, is just how stable her magic is. She explains that the big secret to casting multiple fireballs is splitting your spiritual power. Most normal people think that mana can only be focused into one single point. But once you master this technique, you can split that power up to several different points. Every single portion of that energy can summon its own spell. And that is how you get multiple fireballs. Our guy then asks if it would actually work with totally different spells for each portion. And she excitedly says yes. While they talk, a blonde guy is watching them from afar. His name is B, and he totally thinks they are dating or something. You and I both know this means trouble. Beside him, someone grips the wall with so much pure rage that it actually cracks. The boss nearby also caught this scene and just watches nervously. He secretly vows to make our main character pay dearly for this. Right then, our boy is grinding hard, trying his best to split his spiritual energy into 9 pieces. The blonde tells him he needs to follow her lead and divide his mana step by step. With a smug smile, she says not to feel bad if he fails, since it took her 6 whole months of brutal training to learn. Suddenly, right as she finishes talking, a ton of fireballs just pop up around our guy. The girl stares in pure confusion at the crazy scene before her, asking how he pulled that off so fast. Totally relaxed. He replies he just split his power into 9 parts and cast the fireballs. But she is not buying that excuse and demands to know how he did it so quickly. Blair looks at her, a bit surprised, and just says he simply understood the trick and was able to use it. An answer that simple leaves her absolutely speechless. She just stands there frozen, staring at him. Her face turns bright red, realizing he is not just a math genius, but a magic god too. Then she starts getting super pissed off because she trained way longer than he did. To save face, she straight up lies, saying she has done that before too. With her pride makes you laugh, right? Pride wounded, she ditches the session and runs off. Our boy, he seriously has no idea why she is so mad. He just chalks it up to classic female mystery. Let's watch this play out. He reaches into his pocket and suddenly feels something. His fingers brush against something totally unexpected. He stops dead in his tracks to check it out. Meanwhile, Isabella is absolutely fuming, stomping her way back toward the academy. But out of nowhere, Blair sprints right after her and grabs her arm. Startled, she snaps back, asking what the heck he wants now. But then, she spots his hand stretched out. He is actually offering her a present. It is a cute little red string bracelet with a golden cat charm attached. Calling her name, our boy holds out the gift and tells her it is hers. He admits he only mastered that magic because she helped him out, and he is grateful. She just stares at the bracelet, breathless, completely frozen in place. We all know it's tsundere when we see one, right? Her face turns bright red. Staring at him, she stammers out that maybe he actually has some decent taste. And maybe he is not a total idiot after all. Then, lightning fast, she snatches it. She grabs the gift right out of his hand, trying desperately to hide her real feelings. She takes off running, screaming that the bracelet is super ugly. But of course, her eyes are squeezed shut, her legs tangle up, and down she goes. A total faceplant right into the grass. She instantly scrambles back to her feet. Absolutely mortified, she laughs nervously and glances back to see his reaction. Blair is just standing there, completely thrown off. He has zero clue what to say. Before he can even open his mouth, she bolts away for real this time, shouting random insults over her shoulder, promising she is not giving up yet. Blair just watches her go, letting out a massive, exhausted sigh. Honestly, after all that drama, he decides he needs a serious break and collapses right there onto the soft grass. Just chilling in the sun. He figures if she actually hated it, she would have refused. She would not have kept it. Plus, he dropped 50 silver coins on that thing. The funny part, he originally bought that expensive bracelet for his math teacher. But his relaxing afternoon is suddenly ruined. Shadows fall right over his face. Now pay attention, because the peace never lasts. 3 guys box him in. The leader reminds Blair about a very clear warning from the class president. Stay away from Isabella. Getting too close to the mayor's daughter was causing problems. It made the president seriously nervous. Without a single word, Blair just stands up. Dusts off the grass, face completely deadpan. Then, he turns his back and he absolutely books it, just runs away from the bullies at top speed without looking back. The blonde bully and his crew refuse to let that slide, sprinting right behind him. Our boy honestly saw zero reason to waste energy fighting these guys, until one of them opens his stupid mouth. He calls Blair's late dad a total coward, claiming he ran away from battle. Hearing his family dragged like that, instant trigger. Blair stops completely dead in his tracks. The blonde punk keeps running his mouth. Thinking Blair is stunned, he goes in for a cheap sucker punch from behind. He throws his absolute hardest hook, but his fist violently halts in midair. Inches from Blair's face, the bully's eyes go wide. He did not expect an invisible barrier. Because he swung with full force, the magical recoil blasts him straight backward onto the ground. Trust me, you do not want to cross this guy. Blair's expression is pure, terrifying rage. He is absolutely pissed off now. Meanwhile, the blonde bully is in serious trouble. The bully could barely even stand up. His hand was absolutely scorched, screaming in agony. But stick with me, this just made our boy completely snap. He roared out the truth. His dad was a legendary warrior who died defending their home. An amazing father who deserved absolute respect, even from the grave. Blair glared right at them. Nobody disrespects his dad and walks away. Driven by pure anger, 9 massive fireballs suddenly erupted, circling his body. The bullies froze, total absolute shock at Blair's insane power. Because everyone thought this kid had zero magic. The terrifying reality of burning alive broke his lackeys completely. They scattered like cowards, ditching their boss instantly. Now it was just him and a furious Blair. The blonde punk looked up, completely mortified. One look at Blair's eyes, and he started desperately begging for his pathetic life. Trying to save himself, he stammered out that academy rules forbid fighting, but Blair just hit him with a stare of absolute disgust. Right then, the panic shifted into total utter despair. He just stayed glued to the ground, completely frozen, staring at our main character without a clue. And Blair, he had zero plans. Now watch closely. He raised his hand, ready to blast those fireballs. The energy flared and began surging forward. But wait, suddenly, Blair felt someone standing right behind him. Down below, the blonde bully squeezed his eyes shut, threw up his arms and shrieked out for help, but then no pain, nothing at all. Thinking it was super weird, he slowly opened his eyes, and boom, the 9 fireballs were completely gone. Instead, Blair was just passed out right at his feet, utterly confused. The bully tried to process this absolute madness, staring at Blair lying there like a rock. Still totally shell-shocked, the blonde guy reached out and nervously poked him to see if he was breathing. Smelling a chance to escape, he decided to sprint for his life before the monster woke up. But someone stopped him dead in his tracks. A commanding voice rang out. Standing right there was the math teacher, who was already rushing to check on Blair. The blonde coward immediately made up excuses, crying innocence. But you and I know the truth. Our guy was just chilling on the grass, faking his knockout. The blondie keeps trying desperately to play the victim, but nobody is buying his garbage. The professor turns up the pressure, stating loud and clear she knows he hates Blair. This whole pathetic argument gets instantly shut down by an older bearded guy who steps into the scene out of literally nowhere. He rips into the bully, pointing out that our boy is the one passed out cold on the dirt, which pretty much proves the blonde snake was lying through his teeth. The man orders him to march straight up to the office and wait for his punishment. Then, the bearded guy turns around to talk to the vice president, blaming the whole mess on the academy administration's flaws and apologizing for the drama. The two officials walk away, debating the situation, while the teacher tries waking Blair up. She looks super worried about his health, but suddenly she gets this weird icy chill. Blair awkwardly pulls away from her, his face totally frozen in this hilarious mix of deep embarrassment and maybe a little excitement. The teacher catches this and assumes he's actually just feeling super sick. But Blair mutters he was totally fine, at least until she started practically smothering him to death. She responds with a massive motherly hug, crying out that she was so worried. Then an old man speaks, "Trust me, you gotta see this. Stick with me here. This mess will settle, but they actually came for another reason." She takes the lead, stepping up to introduce the two academy men to Blair. The older guy is Archel, the younger one is Calvin. Our MC respectfully bows. He greets the academy officials politely. Word travels fast. Our black-haired genius is already famous. They completely recognize him as the kid who helped Professor Britney crack the legendary Ruvos enigma. But then, the professor cuts Archel off. She corrects him immediately. It was Blair himself who solved the entire thing solo. She merely typed up the final report. Thanks to cracking this insane math puzzle, both are nominated for the Edwin Award. That is a massive flex for the whole city. And get this, these guys will do absolutely everything in their power to help them win. However, the professor is way more worried about whether Blair will actually get the credit. The old man lets out a heavy sigh, looking right at her. He explains that Blair is just too young. Nobody in the math world pulls off a massive feat like this at his age. Even if she swears he solved it alone, now pay attention, academy politics are brutal. Absolutely, nobody will believe her. She almost starts arguing back, but our MC calls her name and gently grabs her hand. She looks at him, totally sad and visibly disappointed. Breaking the heavy tension, Archel suggests they cool down and decide on all this stuff later. She agrees, and the two officials slowly walk away. Hours pass by, and night finally falls over the academy, lighting the whole building in a gorgeous orange glow. The professor and Blair walk down the empty hallway, completely silent. Deep in thought, suddenly she tells him that even though the basic standard answer to the enigma wasn't huge, his unique method was a massive leap forward in math history. That award absolutely belongs to him, no questions asked. It makes zero sense for anyone else to take the credit. Blair is left a little stunned, scrambling for the right words. After a brief, quiet moment, he says the prize shouldn't be his. He smoothly adds that as far as he cares, Professor Britney stopped being just a stranger to him ages ago. This bold compliment makes her face turn bright red. She is shocked, but definitely happy. Super embarrassed by her blushing, she quickly tells the student to head home. You saw that too, right? He leaves totally clueless. A little while later, a massive crowd has gathered around the academy bulletin board. Everyone is buzzing about the paper Professor Britney published, and obviously, about the student's name on it. People are absolutely blown away, whispering that genius scientists spent centuries trying to crack the Ruvos enigma and totally failed. While everyone is gossiping about him, our MC decides to quietly blend into the crowd, completely unnoticed. And it actually works, zero spotlight. But suddenly, not too far away, he hears a bunch of furious shouting and cursing coming from a nearby room. He instantly recognizes Archel and spots two other figures in the back of the space. It's Bod and his furious father, The dad is absolutely chewing his son out over that fight. The guy's parenting style is insanely harsh. To teach him a brutal lesson, he just starts slapping his own son. Blair silently watches this, furious, but he has zero intention of getting involved. After slapping the kid in front of everyone, the dad starts begging, "You and I just witnessed karma." Let's dive right in. The father begs director Artil to spare his son. But Bod messed up big time. Breaking academy rules is a massive deal here. He completely cut the old man off. Now, the blonde kid's father is desperate. The dad literally drops to his knees, begging the director for any shred of mercy. He just stays planted there on the floor, desperately pleading for Bod to stay. Bod is totally stunned, seeing his own father humiliating himself like this. He begs him to stand up, but despite everything, Blair actually steps right up. He walks straight to Artil, casually exchanging greetings, totally playing it cool and pretending he heard absolutely nothing. Our hero casually asks what happened with Bod. Instantly, the blonde bully's face twists, with pure rage seeing the dark-haired hero actually get involved. Director Artil bluntly explains that Bod started major trouble, shattered core rules, and the academy was officially kicking him out. Swallowing every ounce of pride, the father desperately grabs onto Blair's uniform sleeve. Hoping for a miracle, he swears he will punish Bod himself, begging for forgiveness. He cries about how insanely hard it was to enroll him here, getting expelled now. His son's life would be totally ruined. After watching this massive drama, our hero now watch closely. Our guy sighs, turns right to Artil, and calmly drops a bomb. He actually asks them to go easy on the blonde kid. The bully is stunned. Hearing mercy from the exact guy he tormented, his mind is absolutely blown. Respecting the request, the director agrees to officially pause the expulsion for a little while. Bod and his dad are completely overwhelmed with relief, but Artil issues a warning. One more strike like this, game over. Absolutely 0-second chances next time. In response, the frantic dad practically shoves his son's head down toward the floor. Forcing a deep bow, he barks at Bod to thank Blair and Artil immediately. Terrified to refuse, the blonde kid bows low, thanking both the principal and Blair. Artil accepts the apology and orders them back to class. Walking over to the auditorium door, our boy reaches for the handle. But out of nowhere, the blonde kid stops him. Asking why he stepped up to defend him, hand resting on the doorknob, our protagonist pauses. Thinking it over, he casually explains his real reason. He just did not want Bod to totally break his own father's heart. The kid just stares at the floor, letting those words sink in. Then he turns around, offering a totally genuine thank you, but he drops a warning about Fozzie. Trust me, you and I know Fozzie will hold a grudge. Plus, Fozzie's uncle is the vice principal here. Later on, Blair heads straight to the library as usual, just processing this insanely chaotic day. But out of nowhere, the head librarian suddenly blocks the door. That deadly serious look on his face makes it crystal clear this is going to be bad news. Our protagonist is totally thrown off guard and asks what is going on. The librarian cuts right to the chase, asking if Blair has been picking fights lately. Our hero is completely confused, asking if something went wrong. And then, he gets hit with the brutal news. He is banned from working in the library and kicked out of his dorm. Making it worse, it is a direct order from the vice principal. After this massive bombshell, our hero tracks down Professor Britney. She is the teacher who invited him and Isabella to that math seminar earlier. Blair gives her the update. So what do we make of this? Kicked out, homeless, and scrambling for a room. Stick with me here. Our guy needs a place, so she invites him to her place, saying she has a spare room. Naturally, our guy gets totally flustered by the offer. He is already imagining living with her. But a bit worried, he asks if him crashing there would be a massive bother for her. She just calmly replies that it is zero problem. Why? Because they can study math together anytime. That actually makes sense to him, but his face still turns bright red anyway. Deal sealed, she tells Blair to meet her right after the upcoming ball. Suddenly, Isabella bursts into the room unannounced, demanding to know what our guy is doing here. The professor smoothly explains that Blair is joining them for the seminar, and oh yeah, he is living with her from now on. That last bombshell makes the blonde absolutely furious. She instantly starts complaining, totally missing her students' jealousy. The teacher insists Blair isn't a bad dude, and there is zero to worry about. Meanwhile, our boy just stands there, totally clueless why he is getting yelled at again. Breaking the tension, the professor basically kicks the blonde out, telling both her and Blair to go get ready for the seminar. She then asks if he actually has clothes for the event, since it has to be super formal. Completely clueless about what to wear, he awkwardly asks if a magic tunic works. The teacher smiles, saying if he has one, that is perfect. Night falls and the grand ball finally begins. Now watch closely. Everyone arrives, and our guy hits the red carpet flanked by two stunning girls in gorgeous dresses. Reaching the venue, Isabella proudly announces that they have officially arrived. It is the Howard family mansion, where the elite magic society holds its exclusive events. And this magic society is a massively important organization in the entire kingdom, which is why they always use the Howard mansion for absolutely everything. Turns out, this insane mansion belongs to their class representative. Up ahead, three guys are standing around having a pretty intense discussion. Right then, their teacher, Britney, walks straight up to one of them, Vice President Calvin. Calvin spots the teacher and Blair's group, giving everyone a really cheerful greeting. Our boy instantly greets the guy back. Isabella, who is standing right beside him, is totally confused about how they even know each other. The vice president asks Blair to introduce his friends. Mentioning they were literally just talking about him, Professor Britney decides to not interrupt their chat. She backs away, saying she will catch up with them later. Blair and Isabella step inside. You and I would drop our jaws too, honestly, looking all around them. Our guy is completely blown away by the sheer luxury and makes a beeline straight for the buffet. Without a single second thought, he starts grabbing a ton of snacks and drinks, literally scarfing everything down in a flash. But Isabella is definitely not happy about this at all, totally thinking he is embarrassing them. Suddenly, something catches Blair's eye. He looks over in one specific direction with a lot of intense interest. He spots a massive painting on the wall, showing two rivers connected by several bridges. The blonde quickly explains that this masterpiece is the Howard family's absolute greatest pride. A legendary painting called the Seven Bridges of the Royal Capital. Blair, looking completely confused, asks for the painting's name again, making it super obvious he had zero clue what it was. Their chat is overheard by the rich playboy son. So what do we think happens next? He starts insulting our let's jump right in. Isabella is absolutely sick of this guy's toxic attitude. She defends Blair, warning the bully that their guest deserves some actual respect. But this blonde jerk, he does not care. He keeps roasting Blair's ignorance. Mocking him for not knowing the famous painting, Isabella tries playing it safe. She avoids any more drama with Fozzie, grabbing Blair's hand to drag him out. The class representative spots her holding our boy's hand, and his face sours. Completely furious, he charges right over. He gets up in Blair's face, sneering. He claims our guy only knows how to hide behind girls. In response, Blair just smirks. He casually asks what the painting's actual, hidden meaning is. The weird question throws Isabella totally off guard. She just stands there blinking. She doesn't get it. Blair explains that solving this artwork secret will actually let him invent a brand new magical method, pure genius level. The blonde rival scoffs loud and hard. He says Professor Britney only listed Blair's name on the paper out of pure pity. Isabella fires right back. She snaps back, claiming Blair cracked the riddle completely on his own. Now pay attention here. The blonde jerk decides to make a massive scene. He yells out to the entire hall that Blair is solving the painting's riddle. Isabella gasps. She realizes this guy just flipped a petty personal grudge into a massive public spectacle. Whispers instantly echo through the room. The whole crowd starts hardcore trash-talking Blair, but all this wild noise, it finally grabs the attention of Professor Britney and Calvin across the hall. The bully grins, taunting our hero. He says Blair is basically trapped now. Solve it right now. Suddenly, someone randomly grabs our boy's arm. It's Professor Britney. Looking super panicked, she asks why he's picking fights. Why provoke Fozzie? She warns him the Howard family has insane local power. Crossing them is practically a death wish. If he keeps acting reckless, he'll get blacklisted by the Math Society and the entire academy system. And worse, this legendary Seven Bridges problem is a complete nightmare. You see where this is going, right? Fozzie is setting a trap. He wants Blair to fail so he can publicly humiliate him in front of everyone. Fozzie catches the tail end of this chat. He turns straight to Britney. He mocks her. Didn't she literally call Blair a genius just yesterday? Now she suddenly doubts his skills. The professor gets completely flustered. She raises her voice to argue back, but gets totally cut off. Right then, Blair steps up. Dripping with confidence, he says he'll take the challenge. It's his little payback for getting kicked out of the library earlier. The girls overhear this and gasp. They are absolutely stunned by the truth. They had zero clue why he left. They frantically ask him if he's actually sure, but Blair just glares at Fozzie. He accepts the bet. The deal is locked in. Smirking, Fozzie starts explaining the ancient lore of the Seven Bridges Challenge. It all began with a first-generation guy from the Howard bloodline. Decades ago, the family head, a massive official, realized the capital city had a wildly unique geographical layout. Back then, the town was tiny, split right down the middle by a river. 2 islands, 7 bridges. Trust me, watch closely what happens next. Bridges, these walkways kept the whole city connected and trade booming. Until one, stick with me here, this old family head had a seriously wild idea. Was it even possible to cross all 7 bridges, walking over each one exactly once, and end up right back where you started? When he dropped this riddle, math geniuses across the entire kingdom absolutely lost their minds trying to solve it. A bunch of top-tier scientists rushed to the capital just to crack this exact problem. Years passed, guys cooked up massive theories, but honestly, not a single person could figure out a way back to the start without having to cross some bridge twice. That is, until the old man who made the puzzle himself finally claimed he had the answer. He told the whole city to meet him the very next day for proof. So, all those math experts crowded around the bridges, waited for hours, and the dude just never showed. A couple days later, they found him dead. Rumor says he got so hyped about his discovery that he literally tripped and drowned in the river. Losing him was a massive hit to the academic world. The riddle stayed unsolved, and guess what? Not even his own bloodline knew the secret. But with the answer gone, his family still hung an artwork of the bridges in their hall out of respect. Fozzie wraps up, bragging that this whole legend is their family pride. But our boy, watch closely here, he instantly gets this, because the puzzle is so similar to one back in his old world. Story finished. Fozzie looks over and asks with this arrogant smirk if Blair can actually solve it. Blair just flatly replies that no, he won't find the answer. And get this, he adds that if he can't, nobody else is going to either. Fozzie nearly bursts into tears laughing at that. He barely keeps it together and lets out this mocking cackle. He completely loses it, just dying of laughter right in his face, super loud. The whole crowd is getting kind of confused and starts walking away, finding this whole rivalry incredibly boring. One girl mutters that Blair is just some cocky little brat who really doesn't know his place here. But her friend standing right next to her, she keeps an eye on our boy and notices this crazy sharp look in his eyes. To her, this black-haired dude is way smarter than he looks.